Following the announcement that Beto O'Rourke will be running for president in 2020, there was a lot of news about how much money he raised in the first 24 hours. And he did raise a lot. In fact, he raised more than Bernie Sanders had raised. But we now have some more information, which actually makes this story a little more interesting for me personally. So the fact that he had raised about $200,000 more than Bernie had in the first 24 hours, didn't really find that interesting. But when you do a breakdown to see how much the average donation was and how many donors there were, now we're having a conversation. So you look at Beto O'Rourke, and in the first 24 hours, he told reporters that he had 128,000 unique donors. Now, he didn't elaborate on what he meant by unique donors, with an average contribution size of about $48. Bernie Sanders, on the other hand, had 225,000 individual donors with an average contribution size of $27. So while Beto O'Rourke did certainly raise a little more money, it does appear that Bernie Sanders had more donors who gave a little less.
So I want to give credit to Beto O'Rourke here, but there is something a little weird about this story. So first, I think it's a big deal that he raised more money than Bernie Sanders. Bernie Sanders has a ton of online supporters from last time he ran. There's a giant advantage for Bernie Sanders. So Kamala Harris had a great day on the first day, and she raised over $1 million. And then Sanders came in and blew her out of the water with getting to nearly 6 million. So when Beto matched and did better than Bernie Sanders, that is impressive. And on last Friday's show, Tommy Vitor was on from Pod Save America, and we all said, including Tommy, like it was weird that Beto was not releasing how much he had raised in the first 24 hours, and so we had assumed that he had not raised that much. Apparently, that was wrong. So he raised a lot, and in fact, more than Bernie, which is this. No, I'll go as far as saying that's pretty astonishing, and so credit there. Now, but he did it with 100,000 less donors, individual donors. So that means he came in with a ton of maxed out donors. Now that's okay, and if people are super excited by him and they want to give $2,700, or for the primary and the general you can give $5,400, okay. But I would be curious to see that list, because now remember the corporate Democratic groups, and that's not a slur or anything. They're proud to be corporate Democrats. The New Democrat Coalition, which Beto O'Rourke was in when he was in the House, and Third Way, which is the bankers that support the Democratic Party. They're clearly pro-corporations. They say they're for big business. They say they love Beto and they want to support him. They know how important it is to have a big number on the first day. So the number was not published for a while. Then it comes out and it's a little bit better than Bernie with a ton of big donors. Now, not big donors in terms of corporate PACs. Beto doesn't take that. And he hasn't taken it from the beginning, and we have given him credit for that 1,000 times over, okay? So my guess is you're gonna find out a lot of maxed out donors, and a lot of them work at giant corporations. That's my guess, but we'll see if he ever publishes, and he might have to publish the numbers. We'll look into it, etc. So it's a little bit of a mixed bag, but that doesn't take credit away from Beto for still, even if you just take the number of what he calls unique donors. I don't know why he's using terminology that's different than everybody else. I don't know if that means something or it means nothing. But anyway, if 128,000 people, it's a lot of people. So that is formidable, and it's a great job overall. It's just those weird asterisks, that's all.
So the thing that really stands out to me, and this conversation has already been had, but I want to bring it up again, is how ridiculous and how ridiculously expensive it is to run for president or run for office in the United States. So we're not even talking about how much they've raised so far. We're just simply having a conversation about how much they've raised in the first 24 hours following the announcement of running. So $6 million. I mean, Bernie Sanders, 5.9 million, Beto O'Rourke, 6.1 million. That's how much they raised in the first 24 hours. Now, they're running for president. Of course, it's going to be expensive to run for president. But what I want to talk about a little bit is what it signals to everyday Americans who want to be politically active, who might even have the dream of running for president one day. That is daunting. You look at that and you think to yourself, yeah, I don't have a chance. I mean, you look at AOC, Alexandria Ocasio-Cortez, and in one of the Justice Democrats videos, she said something about how, I'm a bartender. Like I didn't think that this is even like possible. This is following her nomination for Justice Democrats. And I can understand why she would feel that way and why so many Americans could feel that way. And so it's so important to have politicians who understand what real Americans are going through every single day. When you come from money, and I know Bernie Sanders doesn't, I don't know Beto O'Rourke's family history, but regardless, but if you've grown up in poverty and you see numbers like this, I feel like it really discourages you from aspiring to be a candidate one day.
Yeah, the O'Rourkes were relatively well off, but I don't think they were the Koch brothers or the Mercers or anything like that. I know they weren't. But I don't think it's relevant to this conversation, his bottom line on O'Rourke's background in terms of money. But I do, what is relevant is who's giving money to him now. So look, to Anna's point, that's why Richard Ojeda already dropped out of the race. So he came in, he was from West Virginia. He had closed the biggest gap in all of America, but it wasn't enough because he was in a 49-point pro-Trump district, right? And so he thought, hey, maybe I could run for president. And come to find out, no, you need a lot of money for the infrastructure to run for president. You need to go to Iowa, New Hampshire, you got to get those plane tickets, you need staffers, et cetera. And as an average American, it was, he thought, literally impossible. The only reason that Bernie Sanders can do it is because he's been fighting for these positions for 40 years and he earned that trust and credibility, which he then turned in at 2016, and people believed in him and gave him that money. And now he's in a position with infrastructure already built to be able to raise that kind of money. But who else has 40 years to sit around to build that credibility to be able to run as an average American? And so there is something really wrong with our system in that sense. Now but we can do it at the congressional level, and that's why we did do it at the congressional level with Justice Democrats. By the way, they're doing it again, justicedemocrats.com/donate, okay? And I love what one of our followers said, because so David Brock attacked us today on Real Clear Politics, op-ed he wrote, and the guy wrote in, I'm sorry, I forgot the name. He's like, every time they attack, and of course he attacked progressives. He said, every time they attack progressives online, I'm gonna donate to Bernie Sanders' campaign, okay? And so they've awakened a sleeping giant, and that's the American people. Before, no candidate that wasn't backed by corporate money had any chance. Now, at least one does, and maybe several. And the more they attack him, the more he's gonna raise money, so go for it. And see how you like it. By the way, the guy then tweeted, you know what? I became a TYT member too. And I was like, I love it. So nice. TYT.com/join. We're not playing, we are home of progressives. But one last thing, on this issue, look, I don't know it yet. I am doing political analysis here. I have covered politics for over 2 decades. My guess is after Third Way said they love Beto O'Rourke and want to support him, they were very motivated to raise a lot of money on his first day so he could come out ahead of Bernie Sanders. So someone should look into, and it's funny because David Brock accuses us of doing Oppo research. I wish we had a team that could do Oppo research, right? Not Oppo research on behalf of any candidate, but to actually find out facts, right? We have a small team which was also funded by the audience. Those are our investigative reporters at TYT Investigates. Anyway, but somebody should look into where the big donors came from and whether any of them are connected to Third Way, because it would be very surprising if they weren't. On the go, don't worry, we got you covered. You can still listen to TYT at our new podcast network. Find us on Apple Podcasts, the Google Play Store, or at tyt.com/podcast.